On July 18, 2003, British biowarfare expert and UN weapons inspector Dr. David Kelly was found dead on Harrowdown Hill, near his home in Oxfordshire. Ruled a suicide by the official judicial inquiry chaired by Lord Hutton, now a group of British doctors is challenging the Attorney General's decision not to hold a coroner's inquest into the death, citing the overlooked, suppressed, and modified evidence, suggesting that Dr. Kelly was murdered. This is the GRTV Backgrounder on the death of Dr. David Kelly. Welcome. This is James Corbett of the Corbett Report with your GRTV Backgrounder for grtv.ca. From the outset, there have been questions about the nature and timing of Dr. David Kelly's death, as well as the official investigation and subsequent inquiry into the events of that day. As a UN weapons inspector who had been to Iraq dozens of times to investigate allegations of Saddam Hussein's bioweapons stockpile, Kelly became the center of attention in the summer of 2003 when he was revealed as the source of a controversial BBC report alleging that the British government had sexed up its dossier on Iraqi WMD. In the wake of that scandal, he was called to testify before a parliamentary committee investigating the BBC report and was aggressively questioned about his role in the scandal. He was found dead 2 days later. The official inquiry into that death, the Hutton inquiry, was quickly convened and issued its report in January 2004, officially concluding that Dr. Kelly had taken his own life by a combination of slitting his left wrist and overdosing on coproxamol. Over the course of the decade, however, information has come to light suggesting that the Hutton inquiry not only ignored key evidence in the case, pointing to foul play, but that the report in fact actively covered up such evidence. The cover-up into Dr. Kelly's death seemingly began before it even started. Operation Mason, the official police investigation into Dr. Kelly's death, started 9 hours before his family even reported him missing. One of the key witnesses to the Hutton inquiry, and the man who found Dr. Kelly's body, Detective Constable Coe, now admits that there was surprisingly little blood at the scene for a man who supposedly bled to death. Stunningly, he also admits that he lied to the inquiry in saying that there was only himself and his partner at the scene that day, now admitting that there was an unidentified third man there that many have speculated was someone with the security services. David Bartlett, the paramedic who pronounced Dr. Kelly dead at the scene, claimed that his body had obviously been moved and confirmed there was surprisingly little blood near the body, saying, "I've seen more blood at a nosebleed than I saw there."
I suppose everyone was surprised with the outcome. Like I say, we're not medical experts. All we commented on was the amount of blood over the body.
We can only say what we saw on that morning, and there just didn't appear to be a substantial amount of blood loss either onto the clothing or around the area.
He also said that as soon as the body was found, the police threw a blackout around the scene. He was even banned from speaking to his own control room over radio, the first time that this had happened in his career. A flight log released under the Freedom of Information Act earlier this year proves that a helicopter landed at the scene just 90 minutes after the discovery of the body. The flight log, which has been heavily redacted, shows that the helicopter only remained on the ground for 5 minutes before taking off. To this day, the presence of the helicopter at the scene has never been officially explained, and there is no indication as to what it was dropping off or picking up from the scene of the crime. In 2008, one of Dr. Kelly's colleagues and personal confidants, Mai Peterson, came forward to say that Dr. Kelly could not have killed himself in the manner suggested because he had difficulty using his right hand for strenuous activities because of a painful injury he had sustained to his right elbow. Still, the official conclusion of the Hutton inquiry holds that Kelly used a knife in his right hand to slit his left wrist. Perhaps the most compelling evidence, however, is the testimony of a group of doctors who have come together in recent years to provide expert testimony challenging the official claim of suicide. It is their contention that the verdict of suicide does not fit with the medical evidence presented in the case, and they have formed a group in recent years to petition the UK government to convene a coroner's inquest into the death, something that should have been done in the first place, but was not. Last week, I had the chance to talk to one of the doctors who has been vocal in challenging the results of the Hutton inquiry, Dr. David Halpin. I asked him about some of the medical evidence that problematizes the official verdict that Dr. Kelly's death was a suicide.
If I can consider I look at one thing. Dr. Allen was a toxicologist at the Hutton inquiry. He'd examined the blood the blood samples taken by Dr. Hunt at the post-mortem in Radcliffe Infirmary. Dr. Hunt took 5 blood samples. Only one of those was labelled as to origin. That's the first problem. You would, if you were a scientist, wish to make quite certain that the origin of each sample was labelled on the bottle. The reason being is that there are several reasons actually, but one particular one is that if the poison's been ingested, the poison can diffuse across the stomach into the great vessels. So if you took a blood sample, say from the aorta or from the vena cava, alongside the stomach or close to the stomach, you might find high levels from that. So that's one very good reason for making sure the origin of the samples is noted. 5 blood samples. Dr. Allen at the Hutton inquiry referred to 4 blood samples. One had flown away. He discussed the only blood sample that he described as containing the 2 components of the coproximol, that is the paracetamol, or the dextropropoxyphene, which is an opiate. It's a morphine-like synthetic compound. The only sample that he described as containing these was sample NCH47. The dextropropoxyphene level in that, the paracetamol level was, I think, fairly high actually, but the dextropropoxyphene level was reported as being 1 microgram per 100 ml. I can't remember the exact levels now, I'm getting tired, but he said in the gentle cross-examination that the 2 papers that he knew that described death from dextropropoxyphene described levels in the dead persons about 3-fold or 4-fold higher than the level he was describing in Dr. Kelly. All right. Now, he was then asked, in fact, by the particular QC, what about other blood samples? He described the numbers, or he told the numbers of the other 3. 2 were passed by. Then he got on to NCH44. Origin again not stated. There was he described no dextropropoxyphene or coproximol in that sample. Now tell me how you can say that Dr. Kelly died of an overdose if one of the samples we were not told it contained either of these 2 compounds.
Shortly after the group of doctors and barristers questioning Dr. Kelly's death formed in 2009 to put pressure on the government to reopen the investigation, it was revealed that Lord Hutton had taken the extraordinary measure of classifying all of the medical records used by the inquiry, including the post-mortem findings and photographs of the body, for 70 years, a decision that not even the Ministry of Justice was able to explain the legal basis for. A widespread public backlash forced the government to release the post-mortem documents in late 2010. After reviewing the post-mortem, Dr. Michael Powers QC, a former coroner and one of the doctors demanding an inquest, noted that there was in fact no new information revealed in the report and that the release of the documents may have been an attempt to close off the option of a coroner's inquest into the death in the face of massive public support for the reopening of the Kelly case. Indeed, in June of 2011, UK Attorney General Dominic Grieve did refuse to open an inquest into the matter.
Because of the interest in the political issues that formed the backdrop to Dr. Kelly's death, a significant number of people have raised concerns about his death and the process used to investigate it, and have called for a new inquest to be set up. At this stage, only the High Court can order an inquest, and then only on an application made by me or by another with my consent. I was asked last year to make such an application, and have since then been provided with a large amount of information which is said to support the case for an inquest. Mr. Speaker, having given all the material that's been sent to me the most careful consideration, I have concluded that the evidence that Dr. Kelly took his own life is overwhelmingly strong. Further, there is nothing I've seen that supports any allegation that Dr. Kelly was murdered or that his death was the subject of any kind of conspiracy or cover-up.
Now, Dr. Halpin is involved in an attempt to open a judicial review into the decision not to convene an inquest in the death. Paying for the proceedings out of his own pocket, this retired orthopedic surgeon is now shouldering the brunt of the responsibility for attempting to see a proper investigation into the many discrepancies in the Dr. Kelly case. In recent months, an independent grassroots campaign to raise funds for the legal battle for an inquest has sprung up, and the public continues to show great concerns over the case. In my conversation, I had the chance to ask Dr. Halpin about the public's support and why convening an inquest into Dr. Kelly's death is a matter of such importance.
We've had some wonderful support and very, very inspiring messages. One from an 80-year-old man who was a soldier in the Second World War. I often think of these people, the men and women who would have sacrificed their lives or who did sacrifice their lives. He said he didn't fight for what we've had in the last government, the Labour lot, or in this present lot, who are dismantling everything around us, including our wonderful health service. And so I hope that people get the spirit. I say that our country, this country, the UK, is mired in mendacity. If anyone in the States is watching this, they would say they have it in spades. The media control the show. The media is incestuous with the governments, both here and in the States and in some of the European countries. And the only way we can fight back against this tide, black tide, is by speaking the truth. And that's what drives me, James, to do this. The other thing that drives me is it's the medical thing. I cannot accept as a surgeon that this cause of death should be accepted. The pathologists say they have cases every few weeks of people dying from hemorrhage from a cut ulnar artery. I want to see the PM reports and to know whether there was anything else, like depressant drugs, which they usually take actually when they're cutting their wrists. I know that because I repaired the wrists, the tendons and the nerves when these young people had done it. So I don't accept it, and I've gone on saying that for 8 years, and it's my main motive in a way, in fact, apart from speaking the truth. I don't accept as a surgeon this can happen. Do you see? But we do need public support. If it's down to me and Sue, we will be many, many thousands of pounds down in debt. Not in debt. It means we have to get shot of savings. And I don't think that should be the case. This is a public matter. People say, well, it's up to you, Halpin. You're doing it. Up to you. Do what you like. But the thing is, this has great public importance because we don't know how this man died. It seems likely that he was assassinated, I think. In fact, I think it's very likely. Partly because so much evidence was withheld. If it was an inquest, if it was a suicide, why did the police retain about 9 pieces of evidence? Is it likely that this man's death was innocent in that he took his own life when so much was retained and so much effort was made by Falconer to contain the inquiry, as far as I'm concerned? And the answer is, of course there must have been a reason for that. You must look for reasons for that silence and for those lies.
For more on this story and other breaking news and current events, please go to globalresearch.ca. For more research and analysis by James Corbett, please go to CorbettReport.com.